Mm. Good morning. Oh my God, seriously. It's funny that that happens actually. The second I went live, reply, telling me there, it's like literally post to Twitter saying that it's a nothing burger. And like the people just can't help themselves. Thanks for your hot take before I even speak. Thanks, Craig. Cool. Jesus Christ. People have no control. Like, it's just like, anyway. Anyway, it's going to lead to what I was talking about. It's funny, actually. I'll talk a little bit about the psychology of paying for things and consumer psychology, because I think a lot of people, again, don't really know this stuff, but also just how people focus so much on the Twitter files, which is mostly, when I say it's a nothing burger, I don't mean it in the fact that there's nothing. I'm saying that, you know, on balance, it's nothing that nobody who knows what they're talking about doesn't already know. Much like all those people on Twitter or other sort of social media platforms who say these things, like come up with these concepts. As I say, they coin a term and it's like, well, no, we know that. If you know what you're talking about, what you're saying isn't new. And it's just really weird, like this internet, this thing. And again, you're not going to, this is just internet shit. This is that guy, TM, right? That's just, it's sort of in the fabric of online communication, which is that people generally gravitate towards being tedious when you give them sort of an in. Okay, so it's not any one thing in particular. Excuse me. I gobbled down some muesli before, and now the consequences have attacked me. Anyway, I say, so like this is in the DNA of the internet. But what I'm trying to think, you know, one of the biggest problems we've got right now is that people take the internet, well, the internet's far too serious. It is somehow too integrated in real life. Yes, digital is part of our everyday experience, but our everyday experience shouldn't necessarily be determined by the digital because, you know, there are things that are just unique to the internet that people keep ignoring, like the fact that it's easy, it's not, you're not talking to people most of the time. You're not talking to sane people most of the time. Most of the people who are super online and obsessive and all that stuff don't have much going on. Most of the people who are content creators or, especially popular ones, are generally not across the issues. They're not experts in their field. They are content creators and they haven't done the work. And again, it's that guru culture thing that we keep seeing sort of float up and float up and float up, online, which is, you'll have people on Twitter who are, like there's people I see who, I like and dislike both, obviously trying to keep it polite, but, who coin a phrase, and they coin that phrase, like the phrase politically homeless. This is nothing against Bridget, but it's not a thing. But then because it is so superficial and empty and actually devoid of any real analysis or expertise, but because it sounds easy and it sounds, like it rolls off the tongue, it's like that's not a thing. But for some reason, there's this, and again, it's not picking on that one, it's just the one that comes to mind. It's the one that keeps bubbling up because I have been saying that's not a thing. Like it's in serious political analysis, that's not a thing. Now, if you're in the business of content and you're just saying that, cool. If you're just building a brand, cool. But people take that stuff as genuine political analysis and they take it as a given. They take it as something that is actually true. And this is, I think, the misleading thing, which is that celebrity, performance, influencer shit is conflated, confused with actual expertise, and somehow they're like false equivalency because we all have access to the same tools. I talked about that with AI last time, where, yes, the baseline sort of evens out. But there is that level, that extra level that's better than AI, or that extra level that is better than your average like commentator, or there's people who've done the actual work. There's people who do spend all day reading actual research. There's people who do spend their time actually going back on old theory in order to sort of, explain things better, not just making up terms that sound good and then running with it for years and years and years and building a brand off it. Again, that's not Bridget. I'm just saying in general. Same thing with get woke, go broke. There's all of these types of silly phrases that come out of America that make my life difficult because people just, because of repetition, the psychology of all this stuff with, the more that something's repeated, the more it's taken as true and the more that it's taken as credible. And because there is an economic incentive and an economic imperative and a whole bunch of other factors that go into propping up certain analysis at the expense of real analysis. And again, you got to understand that this stuff is just an opinion from someone who does, generally, like Tim, not a journalist. He's a YouTuber, okay? He doesn't have any training in journalism. He doesn't have a degree. And, when you have the richest man on earth coming out and saying things about like this woke mind virus, like that's, but then also shitting on universities, also, behaving in ways that, really do pander and empower a certain group of people who are idiots and not doing the correct analysis, you come away with a certain, and again, maybe I've wasted my life. I'm open to the idea that maybe I was stupid for valuing, doing the actual hard yards and the work. Okay, maybe I'm the dumb one. Okay, maybe I'm the one who is silly for valuing actually reading the source materials and going back over theory. And maybe I'm the one who, maybe it is dumb. Maybe it is actually just a world where you've just got to learn to be louder. You've got to, learn how to sort of, position yourself in a way that reaches people rather than actually doing the actual thinking and the work. But that's the problem with sort of libertarianism in general, which is that they're quite happy to turn around and use everyone else's work and knowledge and exploit that knowledge and, talk about crypto bros where they're like, oh yeah, okay, well, we'll just use the internet. Well, who funded the internet technology? Who funds the technology? Who funds the research into the technology? Oh no, that's the free market. No, it's not. It's mostly universities. Mostly public universities and public funding that funds all of that stuff. So, you can't just reject government when it suits you. You can't just reject like truth when it suits you. And you can't just reinvent terms and rebadge things that, anyone who actually knows what they're talking about, there's already words for it. And this is a uniquely sort of American thing, but it's something that I'm seeing on Twitter. And this is related to it being a nothing burger, because Barry Weiss is one of those people who just reinvents and talks about these problems in a way that just strips them of all of the work. And, like anybody who is good faith, and I said this with my last stream when I went through, I was going to start covering the Twitter files every day, but then realised that there was no point. Because first of all, it's just everyone's just losing their minds over the wrong things. It's stupid. It's so dumb. Like the anti-vaxxers are losing their minds. The Trumpists are losing their fucking minds. It's like no one actually cares about any of this. They just want to use Twitter in the way, I've said this before, they just want to use it to bullshit. They don't care about the actual issues. And anybody who didn't see that Yoel Roth's job is actually tremendously difficult, and that it was tremendously patient, and that, that's coming out more and more and more. Like their first one, obviously, it's okay to change your mind on a thing. Like the first Twitter files revealed something quite important, which was that there was a lack of transparency around the fact that they were, effectively shadow banning people. Okay, that's an issue of ethics and consent with the users, that they weren't following their own terms of service. That's not nothing. Okay, the people who are calling that a nothing burger were lying to you as well. But they're also people who appoint themselves as experts. Okay. But at least the people who are on the left have degrees in things, okay? Right-wingers are just people who appoint themselves as experts of things. Tim Pool, all these people who, they have no qualifications. They don't even read books, okay? They don't read like anything. They don't read research, nothing. They watch a few YouTube videos and think they're an expert on something. It's like, well, that's not how it works. And that's very, heavily tilted in the right wing, is people who just Dunning-Kruger their way through these things and lie to idiots and say simple things to idiots. And, and every time they get called out on it, act like you're the bad guy or the perpetrator because you're mean somehow or elitist for saying, no, that's not how this works. Okay. And that's the thing where it's like, all right, again, I'm not talking about, political homelessness in specifically. That was the first example that jumped to mind, which has been a source of frustration for me, which is, they told leaving the left. What the fuck does that even mean? What is the left? What are you leaving? When did you last go to a meeting? It's like these things are stupid. They're idiotic on their face. Not even in terms of like having to be, it's not even a niche thing. It's really just literally false on its surface without having done anything. And it's just like, okay, but people fall for it. And that's where, you start to think about the value of these platforms and you start to go, well, okay, they're obviously trying, again, there's issues around product. The way that I come about these issues is in good faith. 20 plus years as a professional, 30 plus years on the internet. Almost 30 years on the internet. A master's degree, studying psychology, now doing a second master's degree in order to solve this shit. Okay. A whole career in digital, plus being a political scientist, plus these things, only to be told to wake up every day to some dude in my mentions picking me apart and replying, and not watching my shit, but having something to say about it. That one was really quite record, Craig, which is that I'd literally not even started streaming before you gave your opinion. Like, what the fuck? Like, people just don't think that how they're received by other people. Especially dudes. Like, again, it's one of those trends that I've observed, which is that, people need fewer opinions. And maybe you should just settle down and listen. And maybe defer to people who do the actual work. And I was thinking about this before, like the way that people have this Twitter file stuff, they've got it completely wrong, which is this arguing one side of, you've got to accept so many premises have to be just accepted. So many things, this is something, again, that the right wing and the US do particularly, but the right wing of the US in particular do a lot, which is they just say that their definition of this thing is the definition. And if you don't immediately accept that redefinition, then you are an enemy or, and you are like wrong, okay? And that whole premise, the whole premise of the Twitter files is bad faith. And it doesn't account for the fact that people have different perspectives. It doesn't account for the fact that a lot of these definitions are contested. You know, like just something as simple as like democracy, okay? Liberal democracy. Like the United States have rebranded that term, coined a term, if you will, to make liberal democracy fused with laissez-faire American capitalism, okay? People, they just just decide what words mean. It's like, well, that's not what it means. There's different versions of democracy, okay? Democracy isn't necessarily fused with the market. They're separate things. Liberty is not right-wing libertarian liberty, okay? They're different concepts. They're highly contested, okay? And I think you'll find that a lot of the philosophers that you quote, guys, are people that you would have called communists today. It's just like if you actually just read a fucking book, just read one thing before opening your mouth and coining phrases, you might understand that these things are complex, and that people, this comes back to Elon Musk's, this woke mind virus thing, where he's got engineer brain, talked about that before, okay? I initially gave him the benefit of the doubt on this, but he is obviously arrogant as shit, thinks he has all of the answers, thinks he's a political scientist, thinks he knows all of these things, has fired anybody who might actually be able to like put him straight, and he's pandering to the same base of idiots that don't read, and call themselves experts on things. And it's like, yeah, I'm willing to concede. I'm willing to open and go, you know what? Fuck education. Fuck all of it. All of the body of it. All that matters is what you think something means. That's the main thing. Like that's all that matters, is everything is subjective. And for these people who like think that gender identity and all these other things, and then they go, what words mean? It's like, you define what words mean all the time, right? What's a free market? No, you don't have a free market. What's capitalism? What's communism? It's like, these are all contested terms. What is a citizen? And this is where, the premise that you need to accept just to go through they're pulling you in the direction of right wing. They're a minority, an extreme minority, especially when you're talking about the global population, which Twitter is a global company, okay? When you are talking about the global population, the GOP of the United States represent a fringe of a fringe of a fringe, okay? They might be very loud and might dominate the platform, okay? But they are a fringe. They are lying about what the world is, and they just have decided what things mean and decided what words mean. And so, to turn around and say that the woke mind virus must be stopped, completely ignoring all context for all of this stuff, then I'm going to have to assume that you're bad, either really stupid or bad faith. Because I was quite charitable at the beginning. As you know, I was quite like, okay, well, let's see how he goes. All right, I'll put money in and I'll pay for verification because, I value that platform. I think that it wouldn't be any worse under Elon Musk, but I'm not so sure anymore. Honestly, I think that, and I'll talk a little bit about the psychology of paying for something and how it makes you do different calculations and expect different things, right? But, this is one of those things where the whole content game is geared around doing as little as work as possible. That's the whole culture, the whole United States business culture, 4-hour work week. Oh, yeah, it's all about making sure that you work less and do less. And it's not the work. The work is not its own reward. You don't have a craft. What you need to do is make as much money as possible, doing as little as possible. and doing as, because make it as easy as possible to rip people off, make everything simplistic with a slogan and brand. And when that brand fails, what you do is you just rebadge it and rebrand it, okay? So when patriarchy fails, just make it into feminism, okay? When laissez-faire economics and the idea of trickle-down economics fails, rebrand it and call it effective altruism. Still trickle-down economics. When corporate social responsibility doesn't happen the way that you want it and it turns into a fucking clusterfuck of greenwashing and woke washing and rainbow washing, okay? We'll rebrand it and call it, what's the new one? ESG. We'll call it these things. We won't do anything. We won't do any of the actual work that goes into them. We'll just rebrand it. Because, just if you want to survive in this business, just be in the letterhead business. That's it. Just be in the business of optics and the appearance of caring, the appearance of expertise, the appearance of the appearance of reforming tech, the appearance of being a genius, all of those sorts of things. Okay, it's all smoke and mirrors. And nothing represents that better than, say, someone like Trump or like Elon Musk. Okay. And again, I've been pretty charitable, but at this point, I think going by behavior, you can extrapolate certain things, that he's in bed with an ideology that is a failed one. It is there to, he is not willing to be coached politically on what the actual problem is. He is there to own the libs and only that. Okay. The fact that he's calling the New York Times extreme left shows he's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay. But of course, because there's 150 influencers around who are also fucking stupid, who go, oh yes, that's the far left, I'm politically, all those things. You serve a thing where everyone just doesn't listen to experts, and it's like, this is where we end up. So what I think we need to do is just stop listening to the internet. Okay. Someone chatted. I'm not in the mood for talking back today, but hang on, let's have a look. Most people in the world have forgotten that just because we disagree doesn't mean we have to hate each other. Just reduces the public discourse to little more than a shit fight, pissing ill-conceived notions at each other until the loudest wins. Favor. Yeah, there's a quick way to say that, which is political sectarianism. These things are known, and this is where it's weird, because a lot of people use a lot of energy. And again, maybe this is the thing where we don't pay for it, so we don't value it. And this is where I'll go, which is that because we've used the internet for free for so long, and we don't value our time doesn't necessarily equate with money. There's no real pain of paying that goes with using the internet. Okay. You can piss away your day, but you don't feel that way because, it's only your time, or you're not paying for it. Okay. Now, I'm getting to my point, which is that what that means is that we also piss away our day sharing our opinions on everything, when most opinions are pretty well established. If people listened more and used the internet to consume information and listen to information rather than just sort of give their 2 cents. Okay. Before, like I said before, I started streaming on Twitter, and before I even started streaming, someone had a reply on what they thought about the Twitter files. And I'm like, for fuck's sake, are you serious? Why don't you just wait? Why don't you wait? I'm an expert. Why don't you just wait a minute? Maybe, what are you doing with your time? Your time costs money. What's the motivation? Again, I'm not saying you shouldn't chat. I'm just saying, let's think about these things. Let's unpack these things. Because people who coin terms and content creators and people who do that sort of thing, they need to be really honest with themselves about what their motivations are and the responsibility that comes with positioning yourself as an expert when you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Okay? I'm saying there's a balance for these things, but Americans in particular just make it so unfucking. It's like, can you just not have an opinion on something? Maybe just let someone else talk for a minute who's done the work. Maybe just for 1 second, just stop flapping your fucking jaw and let those who know what they're talking about get their words out before interrupting them. And this links very much to the experience of Twitter, which is that, I pay for Twitter Blue, and I've been trying, and I'm still very much probably in sunk costs fallacy land at the moment, right? Yeah, but content creators can have their own opinions, but they need to qualify that they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Okay? And also, I think there is something to be said for someone who's actually had training in an area versus someone who's just mouthing off an opinion. For some reason, those have been given false equivalency, and somehow because America is backward, and because you can write a book, if you write a book and you say the certain things, that if there's a market for it, which The market is not for textbooks. The market is for fucking pop psychology and, pop politics and like coining of terms and stuff. You're given this, there's this impression that somehow because you have a book that you've got expertise, but no one deconstructs what you actually need to do and say to get those things published. Okay, so for me to do a PhD, I need to have someone else write most of my fucking PhD in a style that I wouldn't ordinarily write in. In order to publish a book, I know that I need to pander to right-wing lunatics and not fucking piss off America. Same thing with content creation. You need to say certain things and be in certain scripts. And, like Barry Weiss, they're obviously pandering to the far right with this shit, like where they just go, oh yeah, China. It's like it's not that simple. It's the whole China boogeyman shit. And it's just like, well, it's worth thinking about that. It is. And I say content creators can have their own opinion and they can express their own opinion. But it's on you to stop equating a content creator with someone who actually has a degree in something or has worked in the field on something and knows what they're talking about. And those are different things. And just because they say they're an expert in something, and I'm saying that about myself as well, even though I've got my credentials listed there, okay, on LinkedIn or whatever, okay, it's like, well, there's got to be some sort of there is something to be said for there being some sort of hierarchy in that regard, because the people who actually do, I spent 5 years reading 8 disciplines worth of postgrad impenetrable theory only to be promoted, like de-boosted because I say things that are inconvenient to people who are just mouthing off. There's a problem there, okay? It's not about, I don't give a fuck about people's opinions. They can do what they want. But the problem is that I only care about how it impacts policy. I only care about the political impact. People can mouth off all they want. Don't have to listen to them. And also, when you're talking about definitions, okay, I was talking about like these premises that you need to accept, which is that on Twitter, when you're on Twitter, that you're a citizen of the United States. Those things are not one and the same. Okay, there's this concept called digital citizenship. You've got, transnational citizenship. You've got all different types of citizenship. You've got different definitions of what a citizen is. That's just one word of citizen. To have a Bill of Rights implies that you are a citizen of that country, okay? It only covers you if you're a citizen of the United States, okay? Are you a citizen of the internet? You're not necessarily, are you a United States citizen when you are using the internet? Maybe not. Unfortunately, there's people who think these things through and don't see them as settled. And just because you think you know what a word means, that you have all the answers. So the First Amendment doesn't necessarily apply, but most certainly doesn't apply to anyone outside of the United States. But, but also that there's a question there. What are you a citizen of when you're online and interacting internationally? Are you a citizen of the United States or are you a global citizen? No one again, if you're actually talking to experts, people are thinking this stuff through. That's a real tension. Your definition is not the default America. This is American exceptionalism and American Americentrism. Eurocentrism is a different thing, but, there's all of these different concepts. But again, people don't read, so, there's easy answers when you don't read because there's nothing there to get you thinking about it, right? But, maybe you're not a citizen. The internet has made you a citizen in a different sense, which means that maybe you are signing up to different social norms and different laws and different expectations and different rights. Also, we have to accept the premise that the United States First Amendment is the best way to achieve freedom of expression, which it is not. Okay. And also that the United States Bill of Rights is the best way to protect human rights worldwide, and that somehow that's marketing. That's media telling you that. You're propagandized, okay? By most benchmarks, the United States has a terrible human rights record. They won't sign on to UN. Everyone's a globalist, but, they won't sign on to certain human rights treaties that other countries do. They won't guarantee economic and social rights. Their freedom of the press is beneath, they're beneath us on most measures. Okay, the human rights record, as much as they say that we're an authoritarian dictatorship, blah, blah, blah. Why are we not using, because by every other measure, by most measures of, social, political, civil rights, economic rights, freedom of the press, all of those actual, and happiness index, all those things, Europe as the best benchmark for those things, and they're the best spokespeople for that sort of stuff. But of course, we just have to. America just decided that the First Amendment is what we free speech. Like, okay, first of all, you don't even know what your own clause means. Again, this is what I'm talking about when they're talking about like listening to experts. Okay, experts know shit. Some of us, when you were out like slamming Jaegers in a fucking bar, we're at home reading journals and doing the work and thinking these things through, only to be called fucking every name under the sun every time they wake up and have to fucking look at Twitter. And this is where, the Twitter files is just like, that's when I say it's nothing. There's nothing, there's no thought there. The only takeaway that I've got from that is that the people that were working at Twitter acknowledged the complexity of their job. They were balancing multiple conflicting ideas at once, and they had the discussions and the debates. I've got my criticisms of Twitter, as you know. But, this idea that somehow this is just, again, stop falling for these MAGA, these horseshit US patriot, angry, stupid takes on things. Okay? Something as simple as no one's bothering to ask the question, are you a citizen of the the First Amendment doesn't apply. Not because, again, Americans tend to argue in legal semantics and, yet again, having no understanding of the law. Again, just talking with nothing of substance. This trans issue thing that I've talked about, it has gone on the same fucking loop for 8 years. And they're still going and still going and still going and nothing. Nah, it's just a fucking hamster wheel of pointlessness. Move on. Just don't. There's no point. Okay, the second it gets swept up into this fucking bad faith culture war shit, the issue, you should just abandon ship. You're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to get shouted over by dudes with neck beards who think that they have all the answers. Okay, somehow someone's coming in going, well, maybe we should be concerned about the risks of gender affirming care. Wow, really? Where were you 6 years ago? When everyone else was talking about it and then promptly got fucking co-opted and abused so much that they backed away. Where were you then? Now you see all of these people on the liberal left of the United States, not left wing, narratives under narrative damage control because, the evidence of malpractice is now becoming pretty clear. And they go, no one ever said there wasn't risks. You shouldn't have asked it. And it's like, well, they say, no one's saying you couldn't have talked about it. You could totally have talked about it. And if you were around back then, you know that you were fucking hounded and cancelled for even the smallest little thing. So stop lying. All of you just stop lying. So again, it's just narrative and narrative. They're not actually interested in the issue. And that's my main point, is that there is a term for it. America, sectarianism, okay? Well, sectarianisation is probably the more appropriate because, sectarianism is, this is another thing that you've got to, most political scientists and social scientists move away from the words of, they're moving away from ism and into sort of isation, right? And I know that might sound confusing for most people because you'll go, what's the difference? But one is sort of an ideology because they understand that these things have been weaponized into tribes. But, securitization, secularization, it's not secularization, sectorization. Hang on. What's the fucking word? Left my brain. Sectarianization. Sorry about that. They're a process. They're a set of processes that sort of interact with other processes. And so anyone who's turning around and saying that there's one fucking term for things it's not the case. And to turn around and say, like this woke mind virus, what a stupid thing to say. Because first of all, what are you talking about? What version of woke are you talking about? Are you talking about, the sect that exists in like US capitalism and in media or in corporate culture, those sects that are existing under that culture? Are you talking about social justice? Are you talking about the left? Which part of the left? Are you talking about the liberal left? You're talking about the social democratic left. Those all have different things. Are you saying that the entire left wing has a mind virus? In which case that's very concerning because as far as I can see, most of the people that Elon Musk is hanging out with have a far fucking more dangerous mind virus, and that's fascism, okay? They're all heading in the same direction. Or are you talking about totalitarianism? Did you know that political scientists are highly critical of a concept like totalitarianism? That's just one theory of what happened in World War II. Did you know that there's like 12 different scholars that focus just on that alone? Did you know that there's 12 different angles on fascism? No, you didn't. Because you look it up on Oxford Dictionary and take it as a given and run with it, and suddenly you've got IP. And you get an audience of people who think that gives them the answers. It's like, it's not that simple, okay? It's not a woke mind virus. It is radicalization. It is troll farms and astroturfing and corporate interests, which Musk can't say. Because he buys bots. He uses troll farms. Tesla fucking and the Doge campaign and all of those like scams use bots and use like scammy YouTube channels to fucking astroturf these things to manipulate the market. Can't talk about that because that would have him complicit in it. Okay? The left-wing media use these engagement pods to boost their own anti-Trump bullshit. They justify it because it's anti-Trump, but it's still the same shit. And the MAGAs, they're just walking robots at this point. They're just conspiracy bot. It's like, it's insane. It's just bonkers. And, all I saw from the Twitter stuff was people who, ideological, like, imbalance, sure, bad decisions, sure, but people who are just actually thinking things through. Like these people, don't forget, these fucking right-wingers will call you every name under the sun for even being reasonable. And they say that of woke people too, because they're all right. They're all, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what flavour, which sect you're in. You're still a Puritan. You're still just cancelled. You're still afraid. You still live under the broad tent, well, very narrowing, but the tent of US capitalism is great. America is great. And our words are the best words and our definitions are the best definitions. They're just arguing with each other over who gets to dictate and who's in charge. They still ultimately agree that the United States is the greatest thing and should be in charge of us. And China's the problem. It's like, you'll see it. Once you see it, you see what they're unified on, which is that, somehow the tech companies are theirs. Just because they're headquartered there doesn't necessarily mean that, the internet is yours. There's all these things where they just assume, oh, yeah, okay, freedom and liberal democracy. Okay, which one? Define your terms. Okay, what do you mean? Oh, they did break the terms of service. Well, okay, he didn't. But if the Trump banning was a tricky one. And like I said, I don't think I'd have acted any differently. Because if you're listening to y'all in good faith, rather than actually just going, oh no, he's gay, therefore like you're just being reactionary constantly. Okay, you would have heard that you would have seen that he really wasn't wanting to ban them, because also he's across the research, which is that if you ban them, they just get a narrative of censorship. That's what the right-wingers run on. James Lindsay and Jordan Peterson and those types of people, they have fucking releases and like all this stuff ready to go so they can grift and fundraise and crowdfund the second they get cancelled. Same thing with fucking TERFs in the UK. Same thing with all those people. It's a whole fucking pipeline there where the second you get cancelled, trigonometry guys, they use that narrative. See, the thing you don't know about Constantine is that he has those things ready to go. So when he got his YouTube video taken down, which was actually algorithmic and was restored within 6 hours or so, I can't remember exactly how long, he already had the story ready to go and ready to publish that he'd been suppressed. So don't trust these things. It's theatre. Okay? It's like, no, and that was one of the moments where I said, okay, you lie to people, I'm done. I'm not working with you anymore. The red flag should have been when he said that Dave Rubin's his hero. But I'm just saying, like, these types of things, actually matter. Like, defining these terms matter. It's my life's work to define these things. And what we're dealing with is tech has put new pressures on old things, but it's not a new thing. It's just the same pressures, just, coined differently. Like I said, it's sectarianism. Okay. There's gentrification that's gone on with the left. This is basically just cultural imperialism. If you've read Chomsky in the 80s, then you fucking you know what you're talking about here to an extent. You just got to apply it. It exists. These new terms. It's like, for fuck's sake, it's easy to be politically homeless when there's one political party. Like, what the fuck? But also, when you say these things about leaving the left, it's like, have you been to a meeting? Have you joined the party to actually change the party in any meaningful way? No, it's always someone else that does stuff. And you're the victim. It's always, it's always just content for you. You don't have to actually do anything. You don't have to show up. You don't have to run and, be secretary of a branch. You don't have to organise anything. You don't have to actually contribute anything or write a paper or do anything really substantial. You can set up a Substack. But, and you can talk to other idiots about what leaving the left means. But, what does that mean? What are you leaving? What forum did you fucking delete from your bookmarks? Like, what are you talking about? You don't leave the left. Your ideology is based on a whole different number of different factors, authoritarianism being one of them, and psychopathy and those sorts of other things being others, and those, that sort of stuff. But, personality factors and those sorts of things determine your politics. It's pretty hardwired. Don't lie. Fuck's sake. Just lazy thinking and lazy people. But anyway, but the Twitter files in that vein is pretty much nothing, because all I see is that it was a corporation with that has no guidance, because governments have been asleep. They don't have any real guidance. If they did seek guidance, they were damned for colluding with the government. If they didn't seek guidance, they were fucking damned for not being responsible. It's on governments. It's on you to not fucking, we proved they were colluding with the FBI. Yeah, they're gonna. Okay? If you're a moron who makes milkshakes for a living and sees just syrup ice cream blend, then maybe you have a fucking, a view of the world that's slightly simple. But in the real world, you actually do need to work with government agencies, because bad shit goes down. Okay? There's nothing there. Okay, there's problems to solve. Yes, there always is. Much like this whole fucking trans moral panic that's going on at the moment, that I fell for initially because it was ridiculous, but then I realised that it had been co-opted and was being lied to, because I do the work. I did the reading. I figured out what the fuck was going on. And then I went, oh, okay. I didn't know much about critical theory because, again, it's a niche theory. It's nothing... but it's nothing. It's a lie. It's just a big fucking lie. It is a recycling of the same anti-Red Scare bullshit that America has always done. The same witch hunts, the same moral panic, the same fucking censorship, the same Comstop bullshit that I've been talking about. All of this stuff on an internet that is dominated by the United States, where they assume that because they're a citizen of the United States, that they're the boss of everybody. On the internet, that has not changed. That's an easier answer. It's not that fucking hard. And billionaires suck, for the most part. You're all being had. Okay, now again, billionaire hate. Also a silly, simplistic worldview, which is that, it depends. What are they doing? What have they done? What are the outcomes? I'll praise when they do something good, and I'll fucking denounce when they're being fuckwits, like Elon Musk is being right now. Okay, like that's called actually being an intelligent thinking person. Okay. But for him to turn around and do that, like declare war on half of his users, is bullshit. And especially without defining these terms, because they're very serious terms. Okay? Because if he meant it the way that I would mean it, those people are vulnerable, they're radicalised, and they're hurting. And the reason that they've got the mind virus, fuckhead, is because they're traumatised and suffering and latching on to a political issue but because they're fucking poor, because you won't pay any tax. Like, what the fuck? Talk about punching down. Jesus Christ. Same thing with MAGAs. As much as they're They've obviously got a lot more money. They're well funded. The people who spout MAGA talking points get rich, and so I have a little less sympathy for them, okay? But there's no money in like actually telling the truth. But these, they're also vulnerable. It's not their fault. I'm seeing people get radicalized all day, every day. We had a mass shooting in Australia for the first time in 20 years? 96. So however long ago that was. 25 years. Okay? Because of someone who'd been radicalized by the same shit. I've seen people losing their jobs because they've been radicalized. I've seen, because and it's just like, and then Elon Musk turns around and does fuck all for them and leaves people like me fucking flying blind while influencers turn around and peddle bullshit to, catch me on Rumble where I tell you everything you need to hear and makes you paranoid about everything in the world so you can't function in your day-to-day life. It's like, this is the reality of what we're dealing with, which is, again, it's not about woke mind virus or MAGA mind virus. It's about the fact that people are traumatized, they are suffering, and Twitter was where these narratives come from, where they were manufactured, where they have been pushed, where the lies start, and you've got all these fucking people, I don't give a fuck about their politics, selfish, greedy, stupid people with way too large audiences given how stupid, selfish, and greedy they are. Okay. Recklessly furthering the divide, othering people, and leaving them in the laps of people like me and leading to these things, okay? Now, the wokies will talk about stochastic terrorism. That's just another word. That's just a securitizing word like terrorism. Ignore them too. I'm laser focused on the truth that lies somewhere in the middle, and that's what America does best. Is obfuscate and conceal and hide, because it's all about attacking an enemy and securitizing something that gets in your way rather than actually dealing with the fucking issue at its root. Okay? Which is that, yes, influencers are dangerous right now. The shit that comes out of people's mouths, especially Elon Musk. People who are radicalized, people who have been ripped off for millions and millions of dollars through crypto. Everyday people who, get death threats and harassment, children who are like trafficked, sex, all of the stuff. It's like, there's room for humor, and then there is actually just looking at yourself and taking responsibility for your own actions and going, you know what, I influence, this many million people. Maybe I'll just calm the fuck down and read a book for a minute before I speak. Or coin a new phrase that actually serves as a distraction from, that we could actually, things like politically homeless, that is an absolute net. Sorry, Bridget. It's a net for the right to come and swoop them up. It's like, no, you cannot leave the left. The left has always been here. They haven't changed. You just haven't been to a meeting. Be honest about the fact that it is content and not something of substance. The people who are doing something of substance don't have audiences. They're people like me who get fucking 10 views on things. And, because they won't do what it takes to get the big audience, and they won't do the things that, it's just like, well, no, because I don't believe in that. But I also spend most of my time reading shit to try and solve the problem and writing papers and trying to solve things, trying to pitch, trying to write things so I can get funded to intervene with people who are fucking radicalized, not punching down on fucking millions and millions of traumatized post-pandemic people, pandering to lunatics on one side who are radicalized, okay, and fucking think that everyone's coming to get them. Their government's fucking, all this fucking COVID conspiracy shit on one side, pandering to that, and on the other, punching down on some poor fucking kid who's been sold the wrong form of like left-wing politics because it was co-opted and gentrified over a period of 100 years, and they were taught something that took the teeth out of their fucking anger. And they're sitting in dissonance, so they don't know any differently. They don't have a mind virus. They've got good hearts, and they're confused because of people like you. you know, and it's just like fucking hell. And so you get but what they've done is position like Matt Taibbi and you know, elevate these journalists for God knows what reason, because they're fucking like, you know, journalists are garbage people. But you know, I can think of maybe 5 in the whole world that are worth listening to anymore. But you know, these guys present themselves as impartial, but they're clearly cherry picking and pandering to fucking MAGA fuckwits. Again, fringe of a fringe of a fringe when you look at a worldwide population. And it's just like, okay, well, this is what this is. They're obsessed with with Trump. It's like, well, who cares? Anyone sane thinks he's a fuckwit. Anyone sane also thinks he's funny, okay? Anyone sane also goes, yeah, I wish that he could come back. He's entertaining, but he shouldn't have political power. Same thing with influencers. Problem is that these influencers, because they're so fucking stupid, they have a really strong, a false sense of their own importance. And they, on one hand, they think that they're saving the world, and on the other, they refuse to take responsibility for the impact they have on people who are actually trying to save things and trying to fix things. So, which is it? Okay, is it an opinion with no responsibility? In which case, shut the fuck up about politics and stop presenting things as terms and coining terms and all that stuff. This isn't, you know, everyone, unless you're qualified to do so, okay? Or take responsibility for the large audience and do the work that goes with it. So if you're going to jump into this game, do the work that goes into fucking earning it and being correct, not just spouting the word of the day that you spun on fucking dictionary.com and thinking that you're an expert in things when you're not. I've been doing this shit for what? My undergrad started in 1998. Okay? I was in, how long ago was that? No, whatever. Long time. You know, like I've read a book a day, not a book a day, a book a week for leisure since 1998. I read research papers, pretty much maybe 3 to 4 a week, depending on how heavy they are. I listen to things, I watch media, I observe things, I work on it. This is my full-time gig. And guess what? Because of the way the Dunning-Kruger effect works, I'm not an expert. I have some expertise and experience, yes. But I have 30 years on you, you fucking mouth-breathing motherfuckers. I'm just sick of influencers in general. I don't know why I thought that I could actually. People don't want to hear complexity, and that sucks. But also, you know, like again, because I pay for Twitter Blue, it's made me think about things because it's really interesting. Because obviously there's a concept it's called pain of pay, right, or something like that. And in behavioural science. So a lot of this, you know, like American capital L libertarian eye roll, we don't need the government except for like literally everything kind of guys, is that a lot of this economics is built on this idea of, you know, rational choice theory in economics, which is that humans are just rational and that we just buy and we weigh it all up and then we make the purchase and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, it doesn't quite work. That's obviously well and truly debunked, but they, like everything, you know, like, you know, God, capitalism, trickle-down economics, rational choice theory, you know, all of those things that have been well built. The reason why they hark back to those like basic terms is because that was the last time they were correct, okay? There's been a whole body of knowledge built on since then, and rational choice theory is largely considered to be outdated as an idea, okay? Because it's more complex than that, which is that we make lots and lots of different trade-offs, lots of decisions, but there's also this concept called pain of pain, which is that we are, as humans, loss averse, right? But also, so that's part of the reason why they want, you know, like the way that you price a service, part of the reason why you'll have the free trial, you know, for 7 days, and you know, trying to remove friction from that, but also only why people shop more on credit cards, things like buy now, pay later, afterpay. All those things are centered around the concept of detaching you from the fact that you are spending money, because there is pain that goes on there. in that moment that you're handing over your hard-earned money, it means that you think about it, okay? That is a, measurable thing, measurable difference. So getting you to think about that, that's why these subscription models and, Netflix, where you can watch all of the movies rather than paying for, per movie or per show is, that'll work around that psychology, which is that every time you part with your hard-earned money, it should be before you use the thing, because you're obviously wanting the thing. After you've used the thing, you're less likely to pay. That's why I always get upfront payments and deposits on my things, because, but also, there's lots of reasons for that, pay to pay. But so when I paid for Twitter Blue, initially I was like, I value this, so I'll pay for it. I value my Twitter experience. But it's actually quite interesting to see pain of paying play out. Mostly because now that I pay for it, I'm more conscious of what I'm paying for and whether it's worth it or not. And it's actually quite interesting because, I've always paid in time. Like I said before, like sharing your opinions on the internet. You're wasting your time. Why are you expressing an opinion on something you don't know anything about with people? What do you get out of it? It's like, okay, be honest with yourself. So anyway, but you don't value it. So again, another principle in business or just consumer psychology is that we don't value things if they're free. We only value things. So generally, the more that you pay, the more that you value something. Okay, so that's why, I don't do discounts and I ask people to pay up front and all these things. And it's also why it's harder to get money out of people after you've delivered the service and you end up having to sue them and fight them and all that sort of stuff. It's all that psychology at play. But what with Twitter Blue, what I found interesting is that under this idea of sort of pain of paying, whatever that, that concept. So basically, because we don't like to lose, okay? And usually if we're in a loss aversion sense, okay, the loss, the win needs to be offset any potential losses by more. So the way that it needs to be more powerful. Sorry, hang on. I'm just trying to think of my words. There's lots of concepts at once going on here. I'm actually just trying to think of a good example. So with Twitter Blue, nudging the price up, trying to find a price point is really interesting because when I was giving my time for free and I wasn't spending money on the platform, the mansplaining became more tolerable. It was more tolerable. I just ignore it and I go, I can't believe this is free. But bros tediously showing up in my mentions, like yesterday, fucking hell, here's a good example. I just tweeted a throwaway thing about the fusion energy. I said, wow, it's so cool that they've cracked it, that, it gives me hope. Fucking five guys in my mentions. Actually, it's only the first step. I know. Actually, this technology is better. I don't care. Go away. But that's like my whole experience on Twitter. As a woman on Twitter, that is my whole fucking experience is fucking people like that with their, I don't have positive interactions on Twitter. And that was interesting because it's like, well, okay, the cost benefit for me when I wasn't paying for Twitter was okay because I could promote myself, right? To an extent. Can't, obviously, because all of the shadow banning and all of those things. So there was, what I thought was a trade-off was, you have to bear this intolerable neckbeard fucking, these guys are a culmination of all of the internet problems in one fucking person, right? Dunning-Kruger effect, misogyny, fucking, Twitter, being just ultimately just, you can't have a positive thought without people just tearing it down. You can't be optimistic without someone tearing you down. It's like, it's one thing when that's free and you go, okay, well, I'll do that because, I promote myself, I have a presence, all of that sort of stuff. Or, I'm building my own brand. But the dynamic shifts when you're actually paying for it. And I actually sat there and I'm like, you know what? I'm paying for this now. This is fucking unbearable. This is a terrible experience. And, you know, these guys are never going to change. They're always going to think that because they're citizens of the United States, that they're citizens of everywhere, and that because they're men, that they can just come up and wave their dick in anyone's face that they want. There's all these things that go on. It's just the entitlement. And it will always be up to me to adapt around a system that has Elon Musk as a genius, not up to Elon Musk to adapt and listen to us who know what we're talking about. It's always, the onus is always going to be on like people like me to do the work, to do the thinking, to fucking explain things, to, you know, like do the research, because all of these mouth-breathing, fucking loud, aggressive, selfish fucks are running the show. And they somehow need to be siphoned away from actual political power, because at some point people started to get confused between, like, how that people think that Xanderhol, he's fucking what, 19 years old, and he's a political commentator. He doesn't know anything. But somehow everyone people look to them like they're, at least, I mean, Hassan Piker has a degree at least in political science. Anna Kasparian has a degree in political, you know, at least the people that, you know, are on the left are somewhat degree, you know, and Ben Shapiro has a degree. Dave Rubin has a degree in political science somehow. That said, I've seen political science graduates from the US and they're taught nothing. It's insane, like how bad their political science programs are. But anyway, you know, again, it's all just narrative shit, you know, horseshoe theory. Oh, wow, what else you got? Well, okay. I learned this, again, I don't know whether it's just because they got their degree but were drunk the whole time, or whether it's the curriculum. I'm sure that like with every university, it's like that here. You get what you put into it. If you put the work in, you can graduate with not know anything. And you get what you put into it. But I've always taken it seriously because, you know what, I didn't have the luxury of just walking into things. I had to actually work, and I still do. The onus is always on people like me, always falls back on people like me who do work hard and actually, you know, do value merit and those sorts of things to pick up the fucking mess and clean up the mess of people who just float through life and just say whatever they want and like say bullshit to millions of people every day, and, you know, make people feel like shit, get radicalized people more and more radicalized, more and more divided, and don't give a fuck about any of it. And it's like, okay, well, maybe we need to silo them off. But at the same time, sorry, I was talking about paying for Twitter Blue. And it's like, you know, it's really interesting to see, because I know about that psychology, but I knew that might happen. But at the same time, it's funny to see how my mind can shift, and I can just do a 180 in the space of a week on Elon Musk buying Twitter. And I don't think it's going to change. I don't think it's going to get better. I think it's actually going to get worse. I may be wrong. Okay. You know, I'm hopeful that things can improve. But as I see it, the lunatics are running the asylum. And yeah, I'm not confident, but at the same time, I value Twitter to a point, but the value maybe does exist in not paying for it, because really I'm paying to get abuse from men in my mentions day in, day out. I'm paying to not get reach because, you know, I keep being mass reported. Still haven't fixed my account. Well, they let Nazis and everyone sort of run roughshod on the platform, and fucking QAnon fuckheads and all these idiots. They still haven't done the basics, like fixing those that have been mass reported. You can tell who's been mass reported with easy. It's easy. That's a measurable thing that you can just turn off. Nah. You can just reset strikes. Nah. So he's not doing anything, you know, for average users that I can see at the moment. Again, that might be subject to change. But I'm sitting there going, you know, I'm still going to pay for it because I can't see like any other alternative at the moment. What I'm hoping is that other tech platforms take his lead and do it better. You know, like as much as, yeah, you know, there's definitely an opportunity for someone, maybe even like Amazon, to move into the market, or maybe Google Plus can become a thing again. But, you know, we don't know. But I'm hoping that the industry sort of gets a reshuffle, and it is. They're obviously laying off people and they're having to go lean, and the boom is over. And, you know, the last time this happened, there was a reshuffle as well, where the people who are in tech because they love tech stayed, and the people who are just in tech, you know, because they wanted an easy, high-paying, you know, smooth run, then, you know, they'll obviously go somewhere else, right? They'll fuck off to a hedge fund or whatever. But people who genuinely care about product, it's very important that you put those people in these roles. And I'm not confident that Elon Musk. There's a lot that can be read from something like that, saying woke mind virus, because that's not the virus. That's a symptom of the real virus, and it's deeply, deeply worrying. It's concerning. And watching the way that people were targeted, I knew that Joel would get harassed, but I'm no fan of his either. It's obviously a smarmy fucking, but it doesn't. From what I can see, he did his job. And Trump should have been banned. I don't give a shit. Because again, all of the armchair experts think that they just assume that their worldview is the correct one, which is that you're a citizen of the United States on the internet. And there's a lot of scholarship that says otherwise. Okay, which is that you're not. It's a different thing. And those rules are yet to be decided and yet to be debated. You don't just get to impose and decide what the rules are. I'm not living according to American law. Fuck yourselves. No. I'm happy to have the discussion, but no, you're not the boss of me. And also, when I'm paying for something like Twitter, there is a thing where it might only be $8, but it does actually change my relationship with it, which is that if I'm going to put my money in, I want something back. I want something for it. And unfortunately, the experience is rotten for women online. The experience is rotten. Men can't behave themselves. Like, I can't believe I shared a positive fucking thing. Like, and they just show up, and it's not even at scale. Once I'm not, this is me while I'm still not seen. My Twitter experience before I got suppressed was unbelievably poisonous and annoying. And it's like, you know what? I can just turn the filters on. Yeah, okay. But I sit there and I go, okay, why am I paying for this? And again, the payoff needs to be bigger. Like I said, payoff needs to be bigger than the loss for me to justify paying for it. Okay. Now, there is an inherent value in Twitter, but is that, the downside of Twitter is just constant fucking negativity. People who do nothing, don't think, have the laziest takes, nothing but lizard brain 24/7. They are just always critics. They're never positive. Okay. They are super online, unhappy, and also just pandering and arguing they just make it their mission to argue with people who know more than them. And in order for me to set a boundary, I somehow have to give a dissertation in order for them to just say, no, leave me alone. And I think that that's just a fundamental problem with the internet, which is that I'm not saying that I need a safe space or that I need to be left alone, but, this experience needs to be also worth the money and worth the time. That's just a fact. Like, that's just the psychology of paying for something, that if you're going to charge for something, there needs to be something in it. Like for me, having myself seen as in the verified tab is worth it. But if all the verifieds who had verifieds before aren't there to see me, then what's the point? If it's only crypto bros who can see me, then what's the point? No, again, the users they're not going to use it. The only reason that there's a loophole right now is because people are still verified and still using that tab habitually. But when that goes away, they'll stop. So what am I paying for after that? Because at the end of the day, at the moment, I just wake up to garbage, pointless replies from men who just think that because they open their mouth that's the law now. Nobody listens. And then I have to sit and just scroll while I watch bad take after bad take after bad take with people who, aren't experts, positioning themselves as experts, being asked on all these things, going on all these high profile podcasts, being used by other high profile idiots to spread their narratives and their lies. And it's just this big ball of bullshit. And it's like, okay, well, I have to sit and watch that. that makes me pretty fucking miserable and depressed because, you know, at the end of the day, I'm just sitting here trying to do good work and no one cares. And it's like, okay, well, what's the point then? Maybe I was wrong. Maybe the answer is to just go build a troll farm and charge people for it. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I should just go and set up a crypto exchange and do some effective altruism. Maybe I should just scam everyone and then justify that scamming with donations to charity. Or maybe I could have done all the right things, gone to school, done the work, and actually like not feel like I have to fucking constantly prove that I know what I'm talking about 24/7 to idiots. Maybe there's a way of flagging that. Who knows? But maybe I also fucked up. I should have just been born rich. I should have just been born rich and in America. And I should have been born, you know, I should have just been born with a dick. It's my own fault. And what are you doing? You can change genders now. So now you've got nothing to fucking complain about because you can just become a man anyway. Ugh. Stop bitching. It's like, Jesus Christ. Sorry about that. That joke didn't land. But you get what I'm saying. It's like, okay, well, we're just going to ignore the reality, are we? Okay. Just going to ignore the fact that a niche of a niche of a niche is fucking in the ear of the world's richest man who gets to cut, whose roadmap is unclear, intentions are unclear. He gives me the abusive, he gives me the vibe of an abusive a narcissist. Again, I'm not calling him a narcissist. I'm saying that narcissist pattern of abuse where, you know, you are in the sun. So when you're in the sun, you are fucking warm and golden and you love them. And then suddenly you're out in the cold, right? That's dangerous stuff. You know, like feeling like, again, you know, obviously you can distance yourself from that. But when it's a platform you care about, you sit there and you go, well, do I defend him? Do I not? Do I defend him? Do I not? And unfortunately, because everyone has a fucking bullshit take, I feel the need that I have to be on that sort of hamster wheel a little more than I would like. Sorry, my nose is itching again. Hay fever season. So anyway, who cares about this stuff? When people show you who they are, believe them. And I'm thinking that, you know, I'm disinclined to trust this. I'll still keep paying for it, but there's going to come a point where if the experience doesn't vastly improve and I don't get something for my money and time, I will be, you know, looking elsewhere. What that is, I don't know. Because honestly, it's not, I like Twitter as a platform because it helps me to sort of promote my ideas and stuff. But when I'm not on Twitter, I write more, I get more done. You know, I do more meaningful work. I get more reading done. You know, I can't promote myself. You know, if I'm off Twitter and those sorts of things. But if it's shrinking the way that they say that it's shrinking, then there's a possibility that's not there. Because if the value proposition is promoting myself to idiots who yell at me all day and argue with me all day, then I'm just going to leave you to it. And I'm going to go and like start a charity and do something else. Because that's just radicalized, loud fucking idiots just arguing with experts all day, every day. You know, like dudes just showing up for their, you know, they won't listen, but they definitely got their opinion. And it's like, no one's going to pay for that. No one spends their time on that. That's why Twitter disappeared in the first place. Why Twitter like shrunk in the first place, because no matter what you said and no matter what you put on there, fucking tedious people on all sides would just attack you and drag you into the gutter. And it's like, what's the fucking point? You know, like I soldiered on and tried in good faith to keep the, like, you know, but you can't save people. It's just like, this is a lake of stupid and like, it's just quicksand for me. Like, and I think it's quicksand for most people and, you know, who are good faith and actually know what they're talking about. And they just go, yeah, fuck it, go away. You know, so you know, again, it's just worth thinking about because, it's, you know, I value it. Yes. I keep hoping it's going to change. Yes. Do I think it's going to? It's getting less and less likely that anything meaningfully is going to change. It looks to me like it's just going to be crypto bros, you know, doing the same old shit with no real responsibility or brakes put on it. You know, like Twitter, for all it was running pretty well except for the bias. But it's almost like they just got to burn it all to the ground just to, like, that's worrying, you know. So yeah, RIP Twitter, I guess, but we'll see. We'll see how we go. Obviously, if your brain is broken and you're in MAGA land or libertarian land, you think Twitter's great right now. I think it's dog shit to use. It's no better and it's no worse, but it's not better. It's a different kind of shit. It's and because Musk doesn't seem to value user experience or expertise in social sciences and understands that these things like trust and safety are there to protect 98% from a lunatic fringe of bad faith actors rather than it being a like 50-50 far left, far right fucking bullshit. It's like, it's not what's going on. And it's deeply concerning. But anyway, who cares what I think anyway? Like I said, maybe I'm the dumb one. Maybe I did waste my life. Maybe I did waste my life caring about these issues. Maybe I do just need to go and join the feds. Maybe I do. As much as I don't really want to do that, maybe I need to go into cybersecurity or, those sorts of things where I'm a bit more needed. But I'm not going to do this content thing anymore. Obviously I keep streaming and, but I'm not going to pander to any of these fucking idiots anymore. I'm just done. I'm not going to try and go on things. I'm just going to call it out, because I've noticed that being a guest on these things is conditional on you going along with this fucking lie that, America's not the problem. And it is. Americans aren't the problem. They are the problem. And the fact that they just decided what the rules are unilaterally and are dragging us all along with them, not one of them will say it, okay? If you will say it and you're American, I'm talking in generalities. I know there's Americans who agree. But, even the most left-wing Americans still think America's marvelous and has the right to dictate to us how things go. And it's like, no, fuck off. So anyway, I'm going to go. I've got work to do. Love you. That's it. I'm going to go. Bye.